senior services.
Everybody else should have
It's
to
gonna be
be
in your
too.
other funds, tab, other funds.
I know,
Special
we've got
funds,
this
sorry.
extra mandates.
Come on, 281.
Leslie. Sure.
So you're gonna start at page
Not bad.
28 of 74.
All right, what are you saying, Jim?
Your senior services department, who's up first,
Yeah,
is under your special funds tab.
114.
28 of 74, so it's special funds, it's like special funds tab, page 28 of 74 is the start.
Mine says 114, Leelanau County Senior Services Budget Narrative.
Oh, I went to special funds first.
That's
to see-
supplemental information.
That's
Oh,
supplemental,
okay.
you're under, yeah, to look at the actual budget submitted is under special funds. You have 3 special funds today and 1 general fund department.
I'm sorry, what did you say about where to go in the first place?
Yep, special funds tab,
Yeah,
and then 28 of 74.
gotcha.
Revenues will be listed first and then expenses. Right,
Ready?
okay, I am here.
We'll get this, call this meeting to order, make sure everybody's microphone is on. We will stand for the pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
you. Let's roll call.
Commissioner Robbins?
Here.
Commissioner Walter is absent. Commissioner Bunnick?
Here.
Commissioner Wessel?
Here.
Commissioner Campbell?
Here.
Commissioner Alguier?
Yes.
Chairman Yoder?
Here. All right, thank you. Next up, we have approval of the agenda. Congratulations. Now I'll take a motion.
I'd like to have a fifth item, just a kind of an update on the budget process and how we're coming.
Joe? All right, anything else? All right,
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
let's move the supported discussion. Not all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Carried 6-0. So we got public comment. If none, commissioner comments.
I have some, but we'll put it on the, on the 5th one, so let's talk about just where we're at.
Sound good. Next, we have Deanna here with senior services.
Good morning. Lauren does have a PowerPoint, and I believe it was attached to the minute, the agenda, sorry. So we'll wait for her to bring it up. Perfect. You can advance to the next one, Lauren. You saw some of these numbers when I presented in July, so some of these aren't going to be new information for you. But I did update the 2025 numbers so you can see where we're at year to date and where we're moving forward as we approach 2026. So just a reminder, our in-home services and our financial assistance program are income and asset tested. To qualify for in-home services, seniors must be at or below the 250% of the federal poverty guidelines. Currently, we are serving 63 seniors. That's about a 16% decrease from the previous year. Same thing with our financial assistance, except that federal poverty guideline is 200% of the poverty level for qualification, and we're about 16% below where we were at the end of last year. So currently, we've had 111 seniors apply for financial assistance, and 94 have utilized that assistance.
What do you account for the decrease? Have people moved?
Deaths, moving, maybe they didn't apply. So it's all up to the seniors to apply year after year. So that's, I think, why some decrease or their living situation changed. So it could be a variety of factors. Our transportation remains critical access point in Leelanau County. We currently are serving 71 seniors for 400 and serve them with 440 rides. Majority of the rides are provided through our contract with Share Care for their volunteer services. They provide 78% of the rides, and Comfort Keepers provides 19%. And we do give beta passes for those who do qualify financially, so they use beta. And then our total seniors served so far in 2025 is 984 seniors. Next slide, Lauren.
Can I ask you that?
Yeah.
How does that compare? Is that down a little bit in respect to the those other major programs were down also?
It's hard to tell because we didn't, at the end of last year, we did a reset in our database. So it took away people who weren't registered for the current year, and we didn't do a reset the previous years. We did, but we skipped a year. So that's why the numbers are a little bit higher in 23 and 24, because we didn't do the reset at the year end. At the end of last year, we did.
So this is not a 1 year, you can't do a 1 year snapshot, but you can see the gradual, what's going on.
Yeah, we were at a gradual increase, and at the end of 24, we did reset our database, and that allowed us to have more truer numbers on who we're serving for this year.
So what you're giving us though is so far in 2025, or is this your year?
Nope, this is so far in 2025.
So 10 months. So
Yep.
the fewer, 16% fewer served.
We still have another quarter to go, so.
And that's compared to last year at this time.
Nope, it's just compared to where we're at now. I don't have the number in front of me. I can get that from where we were at last year.
So you're gonna end up about even, is what you're saying.
I hope to be. I
Yeah.
haven't seen a drastic decrease in the number of seniors that we're serving and everything, so, and our numbers are about the same budget-wise from what we were anticipating.
And then do you use the federal food insecurity reports for any of your identification or programming? And if so, what's the impact of we're going to discontinue those at the end of this year?
For the benefits, for the food benefits,
Yeah.
I don't have any of those numbers. I'm not sure what that's gonna look like. We all know that there are cuts coming. Some of them will be seen in 26, some not until 27. So in regards to the food, I don't have that number.
Just an editorial comment, I suspect we didn't like the data, so we're gonna do the same thing we did then about the labor statistics. Because we don't like it, we're gonna discontinue it.
I'm just making a note really quick.
And you serve 60 and above or 55?
60 and older.
So there's a 2-year gap before someone can get Medicare.
If they're not disabled or have another qualifying factor.
So people in that 2-year gap could also lose their health care. Medicaid.
Correct.
Yeah, it's 5 years
It's 65.
for Medicare.
Some of this is kind of a long time.
62 is social security, but 65 is for Medicare.
Oh, it's not 62 anymore?
Never was.
Never was.
Yes, it was. For
Okay.
Medicare?
Okay.
I joined at
65.
No, it was not. I joined at 63. I started getting it when I was 63.
But she didn't reform.
I could have gotten it at 62.
But you told them you're only 39.
I always do that.
We're confusing the chair because he's about 35 years away.
I know. That's a flag.
I'm confused and all lost. So,
There, yes, so to your point, yes, there is a gap. However, we won't know what that looks like and how many people that affects realistically, and who comes through our doors, most importantly.
Well,
On our
medications
increase.
will no longer be covered. And that's quite a bit.
We have the unmet need, the financial assistance, which if they qualify through our program, we can help them with that cost. We can help with vision and dental for those who are uninsured. Have the unmet need category for those who are insured but have out-of-pocket expenses. So
if it is truly changed to 65, that 5-year gap could be very, very, very significant.
So as we move forward, I put, you've seen the 2025 chart in regards to the budget. 2026 proposed budget is almost identical to last year. With just a few changes in regards to our services and programs. This year, I anticipate that we come in $22,000 less in our in-home services, which is our most expensive cost that we provide to our seniors. So I anticipate to use $22,000 less at the end of this year. And that's why the percentage change next year, that number correlates with where I anticipate to be at the end of 2025. Nearly 2/3 of our budget goes to services and programs for our seniors. 1/4 of our budget is for wages and our benefits for our 4 staff in our office. I have 2 care coordinators, an account clerk, and myself. And then the other portions are the office operations and then our indirect costs.
I think you need to account for that change next year. There will be a change in people needing funding. People are, at that age, people are on really important medications that are keeping them alive.
So I can
Those
only.
are not going to be covered anymore. They're going to need more assistance.
I have a certain revenue that I have to, that will count on at the end of, for collections in 2025. So I do have a discussion in regards to the millage that is expiring at the end of 2025. I don't know how to account and plan for something that I don't know what those numbers are going to be. So I can adjust mid-year and see where we're at, if the needs are there. I mean, I think it's that. I think it's also Meals on Wheels could be affected. So there's a lot of unknowns right now that it's hard to plan for. But I can assure you, we will serve those people who come through the door. If I need more money and need to adjust, I will work with administrator, I'll work with finance, I'll work with you all to adjust those numbers as needed.
So, I'm sorry,
No, you finish.
I think, so your new millage is gonna be at what level?
August 2026. We do our last collection for the current millage this winter.
I saw that, I think you didn't tip much, but you tipped some in your fund balance last year, almost 25,000.
Last year, we used 23,000 in 2024.
Right, and it sounds like you may be a little closer to maybe not even dipping in, depending on what happens with your major program. But my suggestion, rather than planning, seeking to plan for the unknown through the millage, is to say, I think we've planned for the unknown, and that we do have a sizable fund balance, 670,000 as of the last audit. And I think we're in pretty good shape if indeed emergency consequences fall on the shoulders of our senior department to address them in the short term anyways, for maybe a half a year, maybe a year even, and then see where we're at rather than propose a tax that may not be needed and then propose a tax that may not be needed. So that's my thought. We're in pretty good financial shape, should something like that happen.
I agree. So what I would probably do with that is if I'm close to going over a line item in my budget, right? The budget's all one line item, but if I'm getting close, I will talk to the administrator, finance, make you all aware, and we can adjust. Kathy and I have had that conversation the last couple of years, that at the end of the year, we always do an adjustment to see where we're at. But if I do come close to going over and like the unmet need because of the changes that are going to happen, we can take a look at that and adjust where we can, use fund balance where we can. But ultimately, that comes in at the end of the year where we're at.
Thank you.
You know, you said you expanded the partnership in the senior companion program and the Traverse District Library. What is that, the senior program?
So the senior companion program serves low-income seniors 55 and older as a volunteer, and they pay the volunteer stipend, so they have no out-of-pocket expense to provide volunteer services to residents, to those in need.
So who's the partnership with?
Catholic Human Services has a senior companion program.
And that how many people actually do the talking book library? You know?
I have no numbers on that. I have tried to contact the right people through Traverse Area District Library, and I don't have that number. And I have we seen a request for next year?
I'll look.
Okay.
I think I used last year's number.
I used last year's number too. I just kind of rolled that, but we haven't seen that matching request yet.
So you use millage money for Catholic Human Services to pay them?
Yes, to pay the volunteers.
Okay. So, but we don't know how many are doing the talking books. Do you know how much that costs? I thought it was around $5,000.
It's about 41,000, I believe, or excuse me, 4,100.
But we don't know how many use it. I know it was requested wondering if it's still used.
It's 47, I think. 4,700.
I mean, I guess we should really know how many people use it if we're just sort of paying for something that's not used.
Well, it is very, very, funny things happen to us older folks. And if you can't read anymore, it's really, really nice to have something to fall back on.
I can
It's
tell,
happened to vision, just wait.
I'm not arguing that.
It's
I'm just saying that if we have no one on it, and we don't know that, I mean, we don't need to invest $4,700 in it.
We never know.
I mean, do we do it
who's
just in
going to-
case? I guess I don't think we should do things just in case.
Never know who's going to.
Now, if it was your money, if we each, well, how about if we each chip in $500 and then they can give it to them? You want to do that? Okay, so that's what we're asking.
I want it.
That's what we're
available.
asking our public to do.
We want it available.
I will try to find those numbers. I will work
I
a
would
little bit
appreciate
harder
it.
on that.
And I'm not saying to eliminate it, I'm just saying we should really know. And I just, I was told that we cannot use village money to give to nonprofits, but now you're just saying we do it, and we have contracts with them. So, I mean, I just wanted to make that point.
Okay. Any questions in regards to the 26 proposed budget?
The dental services north was 20,000, and I was trying to correlate that with what we did with the veterans. We actually funded it through the child care. I think $36,000 for the what is it?
United We Smile.
Yeah, are these two related, these two organizations at all, or?
No, so Dental Clinics North serves the uninsured and underinsured, and they also accept Medicaid. United We Smile serves children, pregnant women, veterans who cannot get services elsewhere. That's my understanding of it. So the Dental Clinics North contract that we have provides those folks with no insurance with access to dental care for exams, cleaning. And we can pay for all that out of the dental line. And then if they need dentures or continued work after that, we have like a sliding scale that we go off of that we can assist with. If someone's insured, has Medicaid or another provider coverage, they have to find an in-network provider for their insurance. We don't give them a dental care voucher if they have insurance because it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
They need to find an in-network provider. So we do refer veterans that are on our caseload over to United We Smile. We've had one that's utilized that so far. If they can't get dental coverage elsewhere or through Dental Clinics North.
I just had never heard of the organization. So it sounds like a group of dentists that enroll into a program, and is there a nonprofit that oversees the program?
It is, so Dental Clinics North is the nonprofit that oversees
Oh.
Dental Clinics North.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's all nonprofit.
Yes,
So you write the check right to them.
we do write the check right to Dental Clinics North. It's part of the health department and
Our
everything.
local dentists discount their work or volunteer one day a week in there to offset some of the cost.
yeah, I don't know their setup through Dental Clinics North, but I do know that they have a pool of money that they're able to give discounted services.
Right. The local dentists enroll in their program, and
Yeah, I can't really speak to that.
I have one more question, but I see there's $2,000 in here for the laundry project. And I'm not saying don't support the laundry project, but I'm not sure why the funds are, because that was also on our family coordinating council discussion, and I think when you have all these different sources of revenue, it's kind of hard to keep track of exactly what something's costing and who's running it. Can you help me out on that? Who runs it and how much it costs?
So it's Sharon Vreeland is through
Family coordinator.
Family Coordinating Council that runs that program. I don't know their different revenue streams. I have numbers back in my office in regards to the number of seniors over 60 that utilize that program. I don't have them in front of me right now. Or what it cost in comparison to our $2,000.
Yeah.
There are several sources of funds for it. The biggest source right now is a woman that used to volunteer at the laundry project every week, died, and from Leelanau, and she and her husband donated a fair amount of money to keep that operation. The women's group from Glen Arbor also supports it. The coordinating council budget supports Sharon's time. And then the various social agencies place their staff in there on laundry project day to provide services. And it's funded by a lot of different funds because no one organization can afford to do it. If you haven't been to the laundry project, you ought to go because it's filled up with people and it's filled up with caregivers and it's really a good experience. And they're looking for volunteers.
Excellent. Well, it's just hard from a budgeting standpoint, to understand all these different sources going to a project. That's why I bring it up. I keep seeing it in different places.
And we often use it as a talking point for our seniors, you know. We know the conditions, we're in their homes, use that as a talking point. If we can't help with fixing a washing machine or a dryer with our unmet need funds, because we have another place that they can go get their laundry done.
Okay.
So
All right. Sorry to get in the weeds so much, but
happy to answer what I can.
So do you use a percentage on this to give how much money you give them?
Don't have
Or you
that.
just give them $2,000 every year?
It's contracted $2,000.
So how do you assure that it goes to people 60 and over?
I have those numbers in my office. I don't have them in front of me right now.
I mean,
Sharon Vreeland gives a report annually.
so, but is that based on percentages? Or is it just based on, what is it based on? The 2,000?
I don't know. I have to look at that report from 2024.
You know, I think we should know what we're giving the money to because the taxpayers expect it to go to people over 60, not to, because it's bothering me that you said that in the companion program, it's 55 and older. So are we giving money to the 55 to 59?
Not our current volunteers. I have that in mind when I move forward and work with the senior companion program.
Because that's the same thing, when you give 78,000 to Christian Neighbors, that means 73% of it goes to people under 60. And how do you assure that that doesn't happen?
I don't know how else to present numbers without percentages.
Well,
I'm happy to,
But that's what I'm saying, when you do percentages, you're saying 27% are seniors, but that means 73% are non-seniors. So if you buy something, let's just say they buy cheese with the $78,000. That means 73% of that cheese is going to people under 60, and you can't stop it, you won't stop it. So we're actually violating our own rules continually. And you can't use the other money that's donated as senior services money because it's not. So I just have problems with how, when we don't know the numbers and we just keep giving more money away, that we need to be more aware of what it is.
so do you want the exact numbers of seniors instead of a percentage going to LCN? Do you want
No, I want to know the money that whatever you buy goes to.
I'm not buying anything.
Well, when they buy it, that
Okay.
only goes to seniors.
So what would you like? Someone at the door?
I would like us to follow our rules. That's all I
Maybe
say.
checking if ID at the door?
You can't. I mean, that's the point. We don't. So we don't follow our rules.
Well,
So,
Mr. Vine, we hear that from you every single week, and we are following the rules, and I'm sorry you can't understand the math, but it makes sense to me.
Well, she just said it. She doesn't know. So
that's
how can you
pretty
say?
much
what
the
you know?
way we do most things.
All right,
The
bring this more here. So are you understanding Commissioner Money's concern? Is that something you can provide, or is that something that?
maybe you can help me work through that. Come sit with me in my office and have a conversation. We can wrap LCN into it, bring Jim in the conversation so we can
Be good.
get what you need, because I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah, I'd
myself.
like to see what they buy with that 78,000 and, you know, what percentage goes to seniors and what percentage goes to people that are not seniors.
They said 28%.
I think that would be wise, there'd be a conversation where you guys can sit down, crunch the numbers and get more of an explanation on that. So instead of hashing it out here, I think it'd be wise. So if that can be accomplished, that'd be great.
We can do that.
Okay.
And we've been working on history here, but you have a new program. You probably, would you like to discuss that?
I do, yes. So we're all about filling those gaps and trying to keep seniors connected. Senior Project Fresh, thank you, Lauren, for going to the next slide. Senior Project Fresh through, which is USDA funded, has put a lot of barriers in place for our seniors. It requires online application, a mobile phone, email address, internet, everything that our seniors can't navigate. QR codes and knowledge of QR codes and applications that you download on your phone. Right now with the Senior Project Fresh, this year we committed to being a community partner in helping seniors get registered for the USDA funds and also the farmers registered. Currently, we have one farmer registered in Leelanau County, and that's Gallagher's Farmers Market. I don't have the number of seniors enrolled because the state doesn't share that information with us this year. So I would like to fill that gap, and in partnership with, or in collaboration, I should say, with Grand Traverse County and Benzie County, because we all utilize the same farmers, have the same senior produce program. So we can go back to what Senior Project Fresh used to be. Paper applications, paper coupons, eliminate the need for online everything. This way we'll know our numbers that we serve. We can vet those who are at 185% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is the Senior Project Fresh guidelines. It will require new market vendor agreement forms and market coordinator and farmer agreement forms. So those could be potentially new contracts coming to the table in early spring. Senior Produce Program runs from May 1st to end of October. So it is a short window of time, and that just allows seniors to access the different farmers market in the county. They're spread out, and it fits right into our budget appropriately.
Does it allow them, our seniors to use the wintertime farmer's market at Grand Traverse Commons?
So this particular program, unless we have a discussion with Grand Traverse and Benzie, because we're all want to do the same produce program. No, it would end October 31st, I believe the date is. October 1st, 31st, I forget which.
Would this be a voucher program or how would you do?
So yeah, they're paper coupons. So a senior would fill out a paper application, we would approve them, and then we would create booklets of coupons, just as the Senior Project Fresh did. It's just we would be doing all the manual work for that. We did before, but we would print the coupons and everything, where the state just provided us with the coupons in previous years.
Is that how you do the one for foot care as well?
Mhm.
So we sort of modeled after that, the farm produce?
Yes, it's gonna be, Grand Traverse County already has this up and running this season, so we'll have a lot of great feedback from them, what worked, what didn't work. And I will collaborate with them to create the same, so the farmers have one application that's approved for the 3 counties, including ours, and yeah. I
You know,
think
that's
it's
a
gonna-
really good idea. This week I helped 2 neighbors with some very, very, very basic things on their phone. They don't get it
Mm-mm.
at all.
We signed quite a few people up through our office as a community partner for Senior Project Fresh. But we don't get any of that data afterwards. We have no numbers to support the work we've done. They still have access to the USDA funded program next year. But we're just making sure we fill that gap as a county, provide access to fresh fruits and vegetables for our seniors.
I didn't understand your budget or your numbers here, and that there was, because it says for 2025, which is just about done, it says up to 100 participants, $25 per person would be X, 2,500, $50 would be 5,000. Then it says millage or grant funded.
Yep, so keep this in mind. I drafted this in July when
Oh,
when the Senior Project Fresh was not even up and running at that time, right?
Yeah.
So I tried like heck to get this program up and running this year. It's just there wasn't enough information. So change that 2025 to 2026.
There you go.
And then I don't have 2025 numbers. So if you look at this slide right up here, you see that I changed 2025 to say unknown because I don't have statistics from the state.
And you have 3 options for delivery. You have a favorite among those, or what?
These were just options to present to you all. This is what I'm recommending is the Senior Produce Program, which is the farmer market voucher program in the budget narrative, which is option 1. That's modeled after the Senior Project Fresh.
You have grant funded, you know, if possible, do you have someone who you think might pay for that, you know, the senior services pros program?
I can certainly try, but I believe that our millage dollars are appropriate for this program, especially that there's that we're knowing who's applying and their income and asset limit.
And you have just one farmer at this time signed up and you're hoping to get more, I'm sure.
In the county, yes. Grand Traverse has 6 or 7 at the, I don't have that list in front of me. They have a handful of farmers that are signed up. And so hopefully with one program, it'll be easier for the farmers themselves.
You know, the Gallagher's has done it, yeah. Bad news on their blueberry pies. And they're big, you know, they're well established, but I look at Leelanau County as all the smaller stands also. Just down the road, it sure would be nice to have a few of those smaller stands so that our smaller farmers, rather than the ones that have kind of grown into a larger role, that they could also participate.
100% agree with you. That's a barrier with Senior Project Fresh because they went to the QR code. So there has to be somebody there to scan that QR code, right? So those little farm stands aren't there's no way to do that.
Right.
So if we go back to the paper coupons, if they're a Senior Produce Program participant, right? And I can have conversations, hopefully with your help, to get some of these local
Sure.
little farm stands.
I'd love to do that.
Great. Next slide, Lauren. And I've already talked about this a little bit, but I do want to have just a brief millage discussion. So our current senior service millage will generate its last round of revenue this winter. So it's important to plan now, plan for those gaps. I am working with administrator and finance to kind of make a 5-year plan, and what that looks like for our department. In January, I will be bringing my recommendation to the full board in regards to the length and rate of the millage. And then the ballot language needs to be drafted and approved by March and then filed with the clerk's office in May for the millage to be on the August 4th, 2026 ballot. So if there's any input now that I can consider before I bring it to you in January for approval, I'm happy to hear any input.
People's needs will go up if Medicaid is indeed dropped. Critical medications will no longer be covered.
You intend to keep the millage the same?
I don't see how she can.
That's why I'm working with finance and administrator to really look at the numbers and do a projection.
Because you will avoid the Headley, amendment by having the thing, so you'll actually go to the full amount again by having the election.
Correct.
And that's why road commission does it every 2 years or every year.
Yep, this last one was 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was just because I was really new when I first started. I didn't know what the projections were. Took me a while to get my feet wet, so.
So between Kathy and equalization, you should be able to get a good estimate of what it would bring.
That's why we want to look at a 5-year projection rather than a 2-year projection. It may make sense to do a 4-year millage if that projection pans out at you're right, if we go back to the original voted amount that has been reduced by Hadley, that may make all the difference. Correct. We'll do that analysis before we get to in March. March, when you'll be approving the ballot language. Advantage of that too is it's actually classified as a renewal rather than a increase.
Well, property taxes are a very regressive tax. And speaking for me and for what I believe in and what I've seen of the increases in revenue that property tax has generated in the last 3-4 years, especially 2 years ago, I would not be in favor of increasing the tax rate. However, I do think that the increases in property values and in particular our taxable values should provide funding for increases and to cover inflation. From what I've seen, unless you bring something specific to us that that we can look at and say, here's a need we have to fund beyond what we're doing. That's right. 1/7.
Yeah, you have the somewhat advantageous position with the property tax values where a single mill tax will generate $4 million roughly. So even a 1/10 of a mill generates $400,000, which is pretty. That's a pretty good amount, or it's a positive amount.
Is that real money?
It's real money. Real money, and a lot of counties would be jealous of that. Frankly, you can fund programs like this with a fairly minimal millage.
Okay, any other questions in regards to the proposed budget?
Didn't mean to beat you up. But it's kind of our job to ask a lot of questions.
That's okay, and I don't always have the answer, but I made some notes down, so I will get you those answers.
You have good answers.
Thank you for what you do for seniors in this county and being a senior in this county. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all for being here.
I think
We
it's
are
good.
experts, being seniors.
Thank
I
you,
think
Lena.
it's
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
1% of the population. So.
Right, the current census data, it's 42% right now, but that was 2022 data, I think.
22.
Yeah,
So
so,
that's not what the median age in Leelanau County is like 68.
going up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we are to building safety, Amber.
Everybody, thank you for the opportunity to present, talk a little bit about my department. So I did not do a PowerPoint slide. I figured I'll just let me talk a little bit and then any questions you have for me. So who we are, what we do, I usually give you guys that whole spiel earlier in the year, but just as a refresher, there's a staff of 8. With me, it's 9. I have 3 administrative staff individuals, and I have 5 inspectors. We handle processing of all construction permits, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, building, for anything as small as a deck to as large as the new freshwater research and innovative center that's been on the news lately. So we handle plan reviews, there's pre-construction meetings, there's daily inspections. The guys are out in the field quite a bit. The ladies and myself handle the day-to-day operations, the phone calls, the emails, scheduling, all of that stuff. We also handle enforcement, any work done without permits, complaints from individuals. Sometimes it's stuff that doesn't directly relate to the building department, but we're kind of the first people to get that call, so we guide folks to their correct resources. What are we spending money on and why? So in looking at my information, the biggest stuff we usually spend money on yearly has to do with code resources and then tools for the job. So that's usually vehicles and expenses related to vehicle maintenance. And then code books. That's been a big one this past year with the commercial code going into effect this past April. Everybody needed a new book in the office. And then we also offer the purchasing for contractors. So that came through too. It's a reimbursement. If I purchase them, I have a membership through the code organization, and then I can get them at a discounted price for everybody else. At some point, the residential code is going to change too. I have zero information as to when that'll be. Right now, the state is in a lawsuit with a couple other organizations over what direction it's going to go. So everything is on hold at that point, but that'll be another big thing whenever and whatever they go to. I've had preliminary discussion with the I forget their exact title now because they changed their title, but it's the Home Builders Association in Traverse City, just to how can we, as a community and the code organizations in the region, assist with those changes. There are going to be some big changes on the residential side that are going to impact contractors, owners, and the staff individuals that help enforce that. So that's coming on the horizon. And I know there'll probably be some additional conversations with myself and other leaders as to how we can assist the public and contractors as we transition into that.
When you talk about big changes, what are you talking about? You know?
I haven't seen anything, but what typically gets floated around is anything related to decks. And then the hot button issue that was related to the lawsuit was insulation, changing some of the values that are going to be required there, what materials we have in effect, and then the transition to, they were going to the 21 and then exploring the 24. In the 24, things that they put in the 21 were coming out. So it didn't make sense for a short time to require property owners to do some of these things they're not going to have to do in the 24 version. So
What about sprinkler systems?
to my knowledge, that's still An absolute no. No, I know it gets brought up every code cycle, but everything we hear coming through the state is no, they're not gonna adopt that. No. Any more specifics than that, I don't have.
Right.
They don't even have anything in print anymore. They pulled it down.
I just know that would be very costly.
Yes, and there's a lot of talk about it every year. There's pros and cons to that, but for the time being, the state consistently says no, and it does not get adopted. Let's see, memberships to our code organizations are very important. I put that in my narrative every year. We've got a variety of memberships. They offer not only opportunity for us to go in person and have shared dialogue with everybody, but also discounted rates for continuing education. So right now, for example, the building guys and I, we go monthly to Gaylord for classes. There's a fall conference and a spring conference presented by the code officials of Central Michigan, Northern Michigan, that they put on. It's a 3-day conference, so you get to meet with folks from more of the southern end of the county that we don't have a lot of interaction with. So it's always interesting to hear what they're seeing and their interactions, because it's very different from what we see here in Leelanau County. Same thing with our trades guys, their ability to interact with one another and ask those questions is tremendous. Subscriptions are another big one. So we are required by the state to maintain a code reference library, and you'll see something come through for what's called MADCAD. I have no idea what the acronym stands for, but it's an online cloud-based library, and it allows us to have a much lower cost for our code references. There's still several things that the guys and I prefer to have hard copy on, so you're not going to get completely away from that, but it allows us at a much lower cost to have that huge library that we're supposed to have. And then the software program, you'll see stuff come through from BSNA. That is the main thing we use in our office. It's used daily. If that thing goes down, we're dead in the water. That's how we do our online permitting. That's how we do scheduling. We do take applications through email and mail and everything, but it all has to be funneled through software program. All monies get funneled through that too. So it's a huge asset. It's how we operate.
Does that make things more efficient?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I mean, I know the contractors really like it.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of complaints. Actually, the one complaint I get from folks is that if they use the online program, they don't get to save their application. So it's meant for all the way through. It's not like you're shopping on Amazon and you like this paint set and you're going to save it in your cart for later. It will not save your information. You got to start all over. But it is pretty user friendly other than that.
Oh, you gotta take a screenshot.
But it does start the dialogue then, because a lot of folks think because it's an online system, I could just apply for it. You guys have my stuff. That doesn't change. You still need your other approvals first. So if they call and they're like, hey, what's all this? Tell them, well, you started at the end of the process instead of the beginning. You got to go back to start that stuff. Yeah. There's one item I'm asking for, and it's kind of more of a discussion purpose. I know the committee, we talked a little bit about vehicles. So I did include something in the packet for you all regarding an estimate for a new Tacoma to be purchased next year. I have a 2022 Ford Ranger that's just over 91,000 miles right now. The inspector puts on close to 1,000 miles a month on that vehicle. And this is the vehicle that had to have the transmission replaced this past July for just over $4,700. So I'm just trying to be proactive with the assets that I have in the department and getting on some kind of cycle. So that's what that is all about.
I just think that Tacomas then are working out better than the Ford.
Yes. Yeah.
How long do we keep the vehicles?
What I would do is put this Ranger as my spare vehicle. Right now, the Escape is still acting as my spare vehicle. So it would be kept until it reached a point where it's really not usable, which is kind of where the Escape is right now.
I know you don't control it, but we're up to 50,000 now for a vehicle. It was just less than a year and a half ago, we gave it for 36.
I know.
So, yeah, maybe better.
And this was just so that you all had some kind of number. I just wanted to throw something in the packet. So if you wanted me to explore others, that's totally fine. I think that's typical anyways, to come to you all with 2 or 3 options as it is.
We're paying more for a pickup truck than we are a patrol car right now. But, excuse me, how long do you keep the vehicles?
This would be 4 years.
Okay,
On
so I guess
that,
another thing I know they threw on there, which you probably, maybe you did, is the undercoating. If we're only keeping vehicles 4 years, I don't see what the benefit of $1,000 for undercoating.
Yeah, this individual I work with, they put like everything on there. So this is really just, it's probably a higher number than it should be. I just needed something to present to you all and give you something to look at, but there's probably stuff on there that would not be needed.
Yeah, I understand where Mr. Bonnie's coming from, you know, they're good pickup truck, but, it's a taxpayer's money and, you know, I'm a trucking company, I like Kenworth, but you can buy international cheap and get the same job done, so we don't gotta think of taxpayers here, not what's. I mean, I'm not knocking you, you're doing your job and everything, but, you know, in a year and a half, going up almost $14,000, that's a lot for a vehicle.
It is. I was definitely shocked myself in looking at that.
If we went to a fleet management, wouldn't these vehicles be included?
Yes, yes. I had discussed that with Amber. It's not, that could still be a possibility.
Good question. What's the service contract? I mean, is this for just rushing? I don't understand.
Are you looking at a line item in the budget or are you looking at something on that estimate?
Looking at this estimate.
I think that's a warranty.
Yeah, again, he listed some stuff on there that's not, I didn't fine tooth comb it, but I know I would have to talk to Kathy about some of this too. I think, you're right, Commissioner Robbins, that that's a warranty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amber, we, 8 years ago, how long have you been here?
10.
Well, prior to you, so more than 10 years ago, we used to have all sorts of complaints about the, at that time, inspections office.
Mhm.
And the former director said, well, he explained, he excused those by saying, well, I'm just a policeman. I never hear anything but praise for our inspectors and your department now, from the minute I walk into your door. So thank you.
Well, that's
Thank
great.
you.
That's great. I appreciate the kind words. We worked very hard to turn that around. My direct predecessor, and then I kind of carried the torch forward, is the mentality of our department. It's not like you don't like what happens at Myers, you can go to Walmart. We're the only place that you can receive this service. So we are very service-based. That doesn't mean we don't have problems. We hear about issues all the time, but that means I'm doing my job correctly. If I'm communicating to my staff that if you have an issue, communicate it to me. If it becomes a bigger issue, I communicate it to the administrator before it has to get out of hand. So I'm
Do we
glad to
have
hear that.
any appeals going now?
Yes, we do have one coming up Friday related to a commercial building permit fee. So,
Thank you.
What about that property on West Traverse Lake Road? Do you have an appeal there?
no, could you elaborate? Property on West Traverse Lake Road.
They took a structure down and the new structure was gonna be even closer to the road. So maybe it's with the road commission.
Yeah, it could be the road commission, it could be a zoning issue, but it's not anything I'm aware of.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, definitely zoning comes to mind in addition to the road commission.
We usually don't tell people where to put their buildings. The other one that could be in play too would be the health department with a isolation zone, well, or a septic system or something like that.
Is that what you're talking about, the health department side of things? Because there is one now that you mentioned that, and then Jim says health department. We were brought up to speed. There's a new home under construction, and they put the tank system too close or partially on the neighbor's property. So we're involved in that. The health department's involved in that. Soil erosion's involved in that. Occupancy is not going to be issued there until I receive confirmation from the health department that it's been resolved. I've been in communication with the property owner next door. as well as the builder. They're where they need to make this right. It'll be up to them how they work it out with the property owner to his satisfaction, but they have to get approval from the health department before they can move forward on our end.
That would
This
be-
one this is one that's just very close, like
Okay.
6 feet from the edge.
That wouldn't be an appeals, construction appeals.
No.
Something else.
Yeah, if it's too close to the road, it'd be the road commission, and then like Jim said too, if there's any setback issues, it's a township zoning issue in addition to that. Any other questions on the budget? If not, I did have one other item to
Yeah,
discuss.
is that, well, it's not on the, but it's about the new, you know, the mileage and the take home on our.
Yep. I was asked to come to you
I
guys.
have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you, uh, and I did not look up that number before I came in here, but you carry over a sizable amount, you're an money, budget to budget, you're an enterprise fund. Are you happy with, and I can't remember, I'm sorry, I didn't have that. Is that about where you would like?
Yeah,
to be
it
carrying
should
over?
probably be right about where it's at. I did look at my July budget status report, so it's a month behind, but it's about 1.2. And given what I'm seeing trend wise with revenues and expenses month to month, the last couple months I've had to dip into that to cover expenses for the department. So I wouldn't want to see any reduction because then that could cause me problems going to the next year. But from all my data, it's at a healthy stage. Yeah.
So a healthy stage would be like about 1.1 million to 1.2 million. What would you call a healthy stage?
Yeah, I'd say 1 to maybe 1.3. I haven't seen it get up much further than that. And this is the first time, I think 3 years that I've had to dip into it as much as I have. The last couple of years has been a little bit of pulling over to balance.
It's
But
grown a little bit, and then this year
it's I'm pulling, yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
And so our building fees, you're happy with their level? I mean, is there any thought to increasing, decreasing, or just what's your thoughts on our fees compared to other places and how they're working?
Where we're at compared to the neighboring communities is on the lower side of things. So it is, I've had preliminary conversations with Jim about taking a really hard look at that and, you know, investing some time and data to really look at that closer. The fee schedule has not been adjusted whatsoever since 2010. And prior to that, I can't even find any hard data as to what was presented to the board at the time to arrive at what we're doing. So it's probably long overdue that we take a hard look at that, see what we're doing, how we're calculating it. It's just going to take a bit of time to get there. But yes, I'm in preliminary conversations to really look hard at that, see where we're at.
And my inkling or what I'm thinking at in a process like that is because your fund balance is pretty healthy about where you're looking at it, because there's been so many changes in the building world, maybe you look at increasing some and maybe decreasing others and end up about where you are as far as overall revenue. Is that?
Yeah, my predecessor had started some really rough looking at this, and his thought process was not so much to increase the fees, but modify how we calculate it to more accurately reflect what you're seeing in the industry right now for costs of construction. Just as a spitball discussion, right now for a new home, we charge $90 a square foot for finished living. There's no builder today building a home for $90 a square foot for a main floor living space. So there was talk of trying to adjust some of those things, but then keep our other factors for the calculations low so that we weren't truly increasing permit fees. So I need to take a hard look at it. Nobody has in a long time, and I just need to make the time to do that.
Goal is just to make them more accurate. Sounds like.
As a starting point, but it's going to take some closer looking at where I'm at, especially what happened this year. Again, I've been with the department 10 years, but only in my current role 4 years. So in that time, it's been me getting a good handle on the budget and how it works, because my funds are not the same as the other departments. And just making sure I'm at least keeping the ship afloat. From here, I need to take a harder look at the data and see, do we need to talk about adjusting fees so that they're a little bit higher to carry over and keep that fund balance where it needs to be? Or do we need to talk reduction? So I need to run the numbers and do some math on that.
As a little bit of a history in that, in 2008, in the downturn, ended up laying off all of the inspectors because there weren't any inspections, or very few new inspections. But then we had to hire them back as subcontractors because we still had to do some inspections on the one of the buildings that were out there. And I think it was in 2010, decided to hire them all back. But we made a goal and raised the fees, because we made a goal to get 1 year's fund balance, so that the next time we have a downturn like 2008, we have a year where we can keep the inspectors on, and we don't go through laying them off and hiring them back, and having them as contractors. And so I don't know, does it meet 1 year's? What is your budget for 1 year?
It's really close to that.
So, I mean, it is right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And if we're starting to dip from it, we may have to, I think you do have to look at raising some of the fees, but not too much, but.
Right. I'm very cognizant of the cost in today's industry to do
And
anything.
at the time, it was pretty high. And the idea was that once we got there, we could lower them back down. But after, 15 years, inflation has got there, so they don't look high anymore. So, I mean, that's a little bit of the history of it.
Yeah, even without knowing that history, you can tell looking at the budget, you're about 80, a little bit less than 80% of your revenue stream comes from the actual fees of building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permits. Your building permits, $402,000 was the $402,000 on a $1.1 million budget. You're not really supporting the department solely by fees. And you don't have many other revenue. There's probably only another 30 or 40,000, maybe $40,000 in revenue other than the permit fees. And you're banking on a $300,000, in this budget, we're banking on a $300,000 dip into the fund balance forward. So you're not looking at a situation where your fees are excessive under the circumstances.
Right. I just want to have a discussion because we deal with big numbers. People we work for deal with the numbers during their projects. And just want to see where we're all.
Any other questions for me on the budget? I'll switch tactics here otherwise. Okay, so I was asked to just give you all an update on the trial period for our vehicle take-home policy. So the memo I put in the packet was just a brief overview of that, and there's some data in that too. The trial period is not concluded, so it's pretty rough data. I've got a full month in there, and then like a week and a half from July and a week and a half from the beginning of September when I started pulling all this together. So thus far, what we've seen is not too much of a mileage change, at least for the one person I had past data. Mileage is not something we had previously tracked. This particular inspector and one other, they just do it for curiosity's sake to see what they're putting on the vehicle. There's never been anything historically in place to actually track that data. So until we did the trial period and we had a reason to, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, why aren't we tracking that? We should be doing that so I can better keep track of what's going on with the vehicle. So you can see roughly what the mileages are for 2025 and what's happened in those periods. And then there's a breakout of inspections. I chunked out some time from 2024 and then to today's timeframe, so you could see what's going on there. So inspections are pretty in line. There's a couple that have dipped down a bit, but our department is all based on the industry. So August was surprisingly a little bit quieter for us than it is normally, but September is picking right back up. So you just never know. You would expect June through October to just be crazy, and sometimes it's not. Just for whatever reason, I have no conclusive data to show why that would happen. And then the last data page there is the the gallons and the total monthly bill from the road commission related to fuel cost. So you can see gallons used in the total monthly bill. So there's some added expense there, but it's not anything over the top and about in line with what I would expect in adding another staff member, even on a part-time basis. What I've seen in this time period is that we've been able to offer same-day inspections. We've been able to completely reroute the inspectors a couple times, especially when we're dealing with our large commercial projects. Northern Latitudes right up the road, and then Gallagher's Distillery are a couple that we've been able to offer that on. Before we did this trial period, I could not have rerouted 4 guys in the middle of the day like that. It just was not feasible. So to be able to offer not only a same-day inspection, but a transition in the middle of the day. The building inspector has been able to do inspections on the way in when we're talking about concrete inspections. So last week or the week previously, he did 5 concrete inspections on the way in. That was not something that could be done beforehand. Concrete is a big deal. Time is money. And if you have 5 people calling in and they all want it in the morning and they're all spread out throughout the one area of the county, not everybody's going to be happy. But if he can do those on the way in between 6:30 and 7:30, then all of those people can still get their concrete at the time they need and it passes inspection. If things deviate in the afternoon and he needs to go back, I mean, he lives that direction, so he's able to do that too. We haven't seen that on the mechanical side because most of the property owners don't want to see you come into their home before 9 o'clock in the morning. But it is a service that's offered, especially on the commercial side. If they need us there earlier for underground inspections, we can certainly accommodate that. It's also allowed for extensive discussion and dialogue in the department as to what's going on with these larger commercial projects. If you had to keep the inspectors at X amount of inspections per day, they needed to leave the office at 8:30 in the morning. That gave office staff a limited time to talk to them in the morning, and myself to round table with some of them, depending on the issue, not enough time to really look hard at things. So we have seen a great advantage in a lot of what we're doing here, and it has increased customer service relations. The inspectors have their cell phones on them all the time, even the part-time inspector, he does not turn the phone off. So if he's not scheduled to be here Monday or Friday, he's still fielding calls from inspections on what happened while he was in the office or in the county. That wasn't something that was offered before either. There was a mentality of, well, when I'm here, I'm here. When I'm not, I'm not. Now that we offer this avenue, they're able to communicate with office staff and others throughout the day.
So you're saying that because they take the car home, they actually answer their phone, they're willing to answer their phone?
Specifically the part-time inspector, that's his take on customer service. He's like, I know I don't get paid for that. I know I'm not here, but I'm gonna take the calls. The other guys already did that. Yeah, whether they take the car home or not, they're expected to answer the phone as long as it's within what normal business office hours are, so.
Inspector that we talked about, which one is he on this list?
The new inspector?
Yeah.
Bill Gross, how did I put his name on there?
Yeah, I think you put B gross.
Yeah, sometimes I wrote his name Bill, sometimes I put B Gross. I had 3 different spreadsheets here, so it got a little messy. Yeah, B Gross or Bill. So that first sheet, it's B Gross.
And he's taking his car back to,
His residence, he's the one that lives in Mansalona.
yeah, and how are we tracking his out of county traffic?
The tracking app notes the mileage from his residence into the county, and then each stop in between. What we found is experimenting with a couple different apps. Those apps are not entirely accurate, especially with our newer addresses. They're not noting them, or if they're stopped at an intersection for a certain length of time, it registers that as a stop. So what I've given you here is the total mileage in that time frame, just because that itself is accurate, but yeah.
So he's the middle one here.
Yes, on the mileage sheet.
So August, he had almost 2,100 miles. My rough math. He's putting on about, is he part-time?
Yes.
So out of that, he's, every day he works, that's 100 miles from home to here back, so that's part of this 2,100 miles.
Yep.
See, the problem I have with that is, I understand how it may help you, but we gotta look down the road here, we gotta think of the taxpayers. And, we're letting someone drive 50 miles one way. Our sheriff owns 15 miles. And, he won't go beyond that. But what I'm afraid of is, the next sheriff could say, hey, building safety, well, we have a deputy live in Manistee or Cadillac. So I feel like, I understand it helps you, but we gotta look down the road here. And it's just, I think it's opening up a can of worms, and even the taxpayers are complaining for somebody to provide a vehicle to drive 50 miles one way to work, 100 miles a day. They're not accepting it. So that's where I'm coming from. It's nothing against you personally. It's just, I look at the liability. Taking vehicles three counties out of our county to get to work and get to home. It's a big risk, but I'm only one person.
And so I hear you. The other side of the coin being, our builders want inspectors. We live in a county where most people can't afford to live. So because of our high living costs, I think more and more we're gonna have to accept that people drive into the county to work. Because you looked for an inspector for a year?
6 months. We laid the groundwork in communicating with other individuals for probably about a year, 6 months till I got some.
So I think that's gonna be a problem.
So if our next finance director lives in Big Rapids, we're gonna pay him.
We have to
Or
do
somebody
whatever.
else.
Big Rapids is a little bit further.
Well, Cadillac. Cadillac's the same as Mansalona, you do the math.
You want an inspector. I just think
Well,
this
what about
is,
the other people?
I
who
just
work?
think this is gonna come up more and more, and it's just a fact.
But we have other.
I'm not
employees.
saying it's a
We have
good
other
fact.
employees too.
It's a fact.
We're gonna pay the treasurer's people mileage too.
Well, maybe we shouldn't have employees. I'm just saying it's a fact, that's all.
I can tell you the way that we have approached this, and we've done it quite strictly, is not reviewing whether or not this is a benefit to the employee. Solely looked at it, is it something that helps the operations of the building safety department? And I know Amber believes, and I agree, that it does help them. I understand what you're saying, that does it help the employee also too much? And does it create an appearance that is problematic for the public and taxpayers? Right now, the policy that you have indicates that if it is a benefit for the department, it's permitted if agreed to by the department head and the administrator. If you want to do something different, it's going to require a change in your policy to do that. And perhaps a restriction on the amount of mileage that would be essentially funded by the county would be a way to address that. But what I asked Amber to do is to provide you with the data so that you would at some time in the future be able to change that policy. We've got until, it's something we could have on the October meeting, for example.
Or November, if that would be a better, because then I have the whole month of September and a good chunk of October to discuss as well. The trial period was agreed to go through October 20th. So
Better if we just went to first year, give you a chance to see.
if you all are amenable to that, yeah. Because it was hard for me to pull comparison data for just this discussion because it's a weird chunk of time. So the more months I have to try this, the more data I'll have to present to you all at that time too.
It's
So
certainly possible data would be different in winter months than it is in summer months as well.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I'm willing to compromise. I think, 50 miles is like pushing a little too far, but I think,
I certainly understand.
I think if we get down, even 20, 25 is where we should be.
Well, I'd like to first say, I think that's a poor analogy, using the finance director.
Well, I mean,
as the person.
anybody.
I'm just saying, I think that's a poor analogy. I can see that there is a difference though between the sheriff's office and an inspector. I mean, a sheriff's office, they get a call 1 a.m. Yeah, you want them 15 minutes away. The inspector gets a call 1 a.m. and they're, well, first hang up. Because it's probably not gonna be a happy call.
And the IRS rules are different for public safety versus non-public safety employees. So yes, you're right about that for sure.
Anyways, I can see the difference between a sheriff's officer wanting the sheriff officer to live within 15 miles, and apparently that's also statute.
It's a difficult thing that I think we just have to be aware of. I'm sure we've all heard the stories of EMS workers in Northport who live in Saginaw and drive up for 3 days. I mean, that's just going to be something we're gonna have to deal with more and more, is that people can't afford to live here.
Right.
Unless we get some housing.
Do we have any more questions for Amber on the budget or spreadsheet that she provided us?
Would you like us to next address this issue? The October meeting, after we adopt the budget in November, a December meeting, when would you like us to address that issue?
I suggest we give it a couple more months.
Yeah, I say December.
December, okay. We'll do that.
Go with that then. Any follow-up questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Should we take a break before our next one?
We certainly can do that. We're at a schedule, so we can do
That's my wife was telling me to stand up.
When Rick Robinson
information to the commenter. Take it away.
Okay, first, please excuse me, I have a cold, so I may be coughing a little bit, but. Okay, so we'll just start with a little overview about the IT department and what all myself and my technician kind of do.
You know what, I'm sorry, before you start, where in this whole thing are you? So we can look at
661 and 64 over here.
Supplemental,
Yep.
61.
Well, and supplemental starts on page 192.
Well, not in the
That's the budget.
special funds, is 61.
Okay.
Something, thank you.
So basically, the IT department is responsible for typical things that you see, all the computers, the phones, the copiers, and that sort of thing. But there's also all the behind the scenes things that you don't see. All of the servers and the networking equipment, all of the software that gets installed on them, all of the security software, internet connections. Honestly, anything that's even remotely technology related, I probably get calls about. So keeps us pretty busy. Just to kind of give you an example, yesterday morning, I came in and I had one email to go troubleshoot a computer that wasn't functioning quite right. I had another one that somebody couldn't scan from one of the copy machines. I had 2 new district court staff upstairs waiting to get computer login information, access to the phones, the phone system. They needed ID cards created. At the same time, there's a circuit court hearing going on. They're trying to use their Polycom video camera. Doesn't work. So obviously that took priority. So I had to go upstairs and try to see what was going on. So I ended up reaching out to my contact at the state court administrator's office, found out that the Zoom IP address for the meetings was changed. That affects all of our courtrooms and even this Polycom unit here. None of us knew that ahead of time. So come to find out, that's what the deal was. We got that issue resolved. And even just all of those couple of things took me easily half a day to try to get resolved. So all the things that come up just take up a lot of time. And that was just half a day, one day. There's always all kinds of things going on. Lately, a lot of the work that we've been doing is the Windows 11 upgrades. Every computer's had to be upgraded by mid-October, almost done with that. So that's just kind of I just wanted to give you a little glimpse into, pretty much what our daily life is like here.
And you had a person hired and let him go. Have you hired someone?
I do
else?
have a part-time technician right now.
Okay.
So,
Good.
yes, we'll be talking about that momentarily. But for the budget, the IT budget primarily consists of all of the software licensing, maintenance agreements for the software, all of the hardware licensing and maintenance renewals for that. Vendor support agreements that we have, and then these costs are all allocated to all of the other departments. They all pay a share for that. Some of the new things that I'm asking for, Microsoft Office upgrades. Currently, out of the 154 users that we have, everybody's got what I call a G1 license, which means it's just a mailbox. What I want to do is take 109 of those licenses and upgrade them, so it also includes the desktop software. I want to get everybody on the same version so it's consistent. People can share files without having any issues. They'll be continually updated, and this is a Microsoft subscription-based software. So those 109 licenses that I would like are $24.15 per user per month. So that's going to be about $31,588 annually for that cost. The other software I'm looking to upgrade is the Adobe Acrobat software, which a lot of the staff use. There's different versions. The Acrobat Standard, which is the majority, is $156.99 per year per user. The other one is the Acrobat Professional. That is $251.94 per user per year. So between those two, that annual cost is just a little over $7,000. We need 2 different versions because the Professional's got some extra features that everybody else doesn't really need, so. But the real big ticket item that is not in the projection here is the outstanding RFP that we have for the IT services vendor. There's just, at this point, there's no way to know what that might cost. We haven't received any of the responses yet, so that's the big unknown. Also in the capital outlay, I have put in there $50,000 for the continual computer replacements. I'm projecting about 30 of them right now. But I'm also gonna have to start replacing monitors as well, so that's a rough guess. Probably won't spend quite that much, but that's my estimate. And my other request is staffing. I would very much like to make my part-time technician full-time. I think we very much need that for myself and for all of the staff here to keep, so we can keep up on all the needs of everybody. That's the rough overview. The little table I put on that handout I gave you just kind of shows some of the items that are being removed from the contractual services. It's kind of a revolving door. Some things get added, some things get removed. So just so you're aware.
Does the person you have, are they willing to go full-time?
Yes.
I talked to you last week and I don't see it in your capital outlay budget, but I think it's something we need to address like tomorrow. And that would be
Certainly talk about it.
new screens here so that I wasn't able to see anything on this screen and I know the audience can. And I think immediately we ought to get screens for the commissioners and screens for the audience, or else we gotta stop using that and go back and just have a paper report. I find it impossible to do.
Okay.
The other day you had to walk up there and look at the screen. And so I would urge us to make a decision soon on that. I think it's critical.
I will
When you
certainly
talk
look into
about a
that.
Screen, what are you talking about? Just one bigger?
But no, put, so in a position where we can see it, like you can see it and I can see it, but
Yeah.
they can't see it.
You're saying it'd be hanging from the ceiling or something?
So like
Well-
in Traverse County, it's
Right
on
in
the
front
floor
there.
and.
Yeah.
I really don't like the idea of having a screen sitting.
It wouldn't be that way. It would just far enough out so that you're.
On the
looking
floor,
down.
but angled up towards
Oh,
you.
I see, a separate screen sitting down there.
Yeah.
But like where Amy said, that's not gonna answer, I mean, it's more than us, that people in the audience can't follow us.
So
We're doing a disservice.
Grand Traverse, they have them up there angled from the ceiling, and again, that doesn't block the view here, but it's at an angle.
Well, we have one over here that looks pretty black to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't really,
Well, that one could be used. It's
Yeah.
supposed to mirror exactly what's on this one.
yeah, if moving that perhaps might be an answer if we get in a spot where it's infringing on the eye to eye with the.
Yeah, needless to say, I didn't have time to put that in my, but certainly we'll look at that.
It would be really helpful if we had screens here, so we could actually see
You have iPads
numbers.
or laptops.
Real bonus.
You could use those.
Right here or in front there.
Well, Ty said in Grand Traverse, they have a screen in front of every commissioner.
Oh, it's in front of every commissioner?
No, they have them on the floor in front of the,
I thought you said they had one here.
No,
Oh, it'd be in front here like that.
So it's like up against that table?
it's in
I mean, the
front of,
ones we
in a
see.
straight line between Jen and Jim.
Which one do we look at? I can't look down there.
Well, it's,
Far enough out where you could.
yeah,
It
it works. Yeah,
So if it was leaning up against the table.
Well, I'm sure IT could come up with some ideas that
Yeah.
everybody could have a chance to look at it, so
Yeah, and
they get the idea.
I'm also familiar with systems that do put a screen in front of every commissioner. And then the issue will become how you get the audience to actually see. But that's something you're not really, you're actually asking us to consider something out of the current budget rather than 2026 budget.
top of our capital outlaw, this outlaw. As long as I have the floor, one more comment.
Leanna, are you done?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Just since I have the floor, I'll make a comment on the staffing request. I don't know how you're able to do it with a half-time person. Technology is so complex today, and I worry a lot about our security.
So do I.
And I don't know that we're gonna know how serious that will be until something happens.
Can you give us a history of, I mean, used to be Ron ran around with a tool belt, but since then, what has evolved as far as personnel within IT?
The only change has really been the part-time technician that was hired this year. It's always been just one person.
And then we added a part-time in the 2025 budget.
Yes.
Do we have safety net?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, that's what Kathy was saying. We contracted with Safety Net to have a certain number of hours when Ron was on vacation, and that kind of rolled with Leanna.
Yep.
But then we experienced that they really didn't have a dedicated person.
No, we
That's
don't.
what happened.
So that's when.
So that's when we moved to a
brought it
part-time.
in-house.
We tried to get a dedicated person from safety net and they just couldn't accommodate that. They didn't have the staff levels for it.
And for a while, Ron had a shared position
Oh,
with
that's
the
right.
clerk's office.
Yes, and
So,
senior services.
half-time.
That's right. He did have a part-time.
Say that again. I didn't, beyond Ron, there was a half-time position that was shared with other departments.
Yeah, so in the clerk's office, there was an employee that had an IT background. And so they worked within one of the budget cycles where he left the clerk's office, the account clerk position, and did like a half in senior services, a quarter in IT, and a quarter in parks. So it fulfilled a full time, but he had three different
hats.
positions, yeah.
Mhm.
All right, Kathy, go ahead.
Okay, we're on our worksheet. So I heard the new thought of boardroom screens for this room. So I think what you could consider if it's a 25 issue would be to put it as a special project for the Board of Commissioners line item and use contingency if you want to think about it in 25. Then moving on to page 2 in the IT portion of your document, Leanna presented Adobe Acrobat and Quest Recovery, which is on your list. She said is recurring, it is not new, so I will add that back into her budget because it's a recurring. I picked it up as new, so we'll move that there. And then she's requesting a Microsoft Office 365 licensing. Did you mention you'd like? Oh, and then she mentioned she might like to do that in 25 yet.
No, I did not mention that,
Oh,
but there are, if you're agreeable, I would like to start increasing some of those licenses now, at least for the department heads, elected officials, because it gives them some functionality, especially for the Excel program that they don't currently have.
And there's a fund balance in the IT department. We could amend her budget in 25 if that's what you all want to consider. Then the safety net MDR security, it is listed as 35,000 here. We know she has RFPs out for safety net. This could be a component of anybody's bid, so it could be an addition to what I've already budgeted for. We've pointed off 150,000 in her budget because we think that might be where it's at, but we don't know.
Well, that's what we currently pay safety net. And that additional MDR would have been an additional service provided by safety net this year until they got bought out by the other company. So that changed. But something like that, I'm anticipating will be offered by the new vendor.
And she's also listed Dew Point. Did you address Dew Point?
Dew Point is they are offering to do quarterly vulnerability scans on our network to keep us apprised of any vulnerabilities that we have and don't necessarily know about. That would be a service they would provide.
And then, in addition to this list that came out of a department head meeting with the administrator, it was Civic Plus software. It's listed as a talking point. It was not in Leanna's narrative because that was put together prior to these meetings. So did you want to address that, Jim?
That's the software that I've been describing that manages the creation of the agenda. So it's all in one place it's collaborative, collaborative work style. So at any point in time, I can check, or any of the department heads can check on the status of a item. Is it properly described to you? Are the appropriate attachments attached? And then it all collects it all and publishes it to all of you and to the public as well. It permits a subscription. It's a subscription basis. So if Amy or anybody wants to subscribe to the agendas when they come out, we get their email and it just automatically goes to them when it's published. So it's a very good program. Somewhere probably around 25,000 to implement it, and then there's an ongoing maintenance throughout each year. But it's something that I think you have to consider.
And did you talk about AvePoint?
AvePoint is,
Oh, that was the maintenance for the 365.
it would be basically backup and archiving of our email boxes, which may or may not be provided by the next IT vendor.
And the incident response plan development?
That was talked about previously. We would contract with Raymond to help us build out an incident response plan.
Keep it on your list. Okay.
I would keep it on the list because we don't actually have a complete incident response plan.
And then the jail access control system, door locks, intercom, this was brought up in a director's meeting. It was put on the list. There have been conversations since this was put together. Jim, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, Kathy and I have discussed the possibility that could be funded through the Maine Housing Fund. There's a fund balance that is sufficient to cover that, even if the cost is $100,000. Looking at, I've asked Todd Roush to get us at least 3 proposals to accomplish that. What we're really talking about is not the locks themselves, but it's the control panel and the software that actually controls access to those locks. The thing that makes it a fairly urgent project, even though there's actually a couple doors that are not operating properly, where it'll indicate that it's open, but it's actually locked, or vice versa. And that's not a very optimal situation for a control system in jail. They're adapting to it. The officers are fairly confident that when they see it, it's they know it's actual status rather than status displayed on the control panel. That's just not a good situation. So we think that that's something that we can possibly even do in 2025, but certainly in the 2026 budget. It may take us till the end of the year to actually locate an appropriate vendor.
And Leanna addressed a staffing adjustment, and also on page 3, under other requests, we have continued to carry financial software, and some team meetings have started on that. Jim, do you want to address that?
Excuse me, go.
Oh, financial software.
Oh, yes, we have started an internal team to review the software that we have now and consider its replacement. We're essentially looking at all potential alternatives It's primarily, that is primarily driven by two factors. One, we know that at some point in time, it's likely that, that Harris will migrate away from the server-based software that we have now and require a cloud conversion. We know that one of the alternatives, which is widely used in Michigan, is the BSNA software, and they have completely converted to a cloud system for new purchasers or new users. They are continuing to support the server-based software that we use in several departments. We use it in the treasurer's office for taxes, in the building and safety office for the permitting that they discussed, and also in the equalization office.
Sheriff's office as well, too. They have the dog license module.
The sheriff's office, that was one I wasn't even aware of. But so we're using current server-based modules for BSNA, but they will not sell a full server-based system to us. So if we were going to do that, we would have to convert to a cloud-based system using BSNA. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and we're trying to get all viewpoints from internal users before we make a decision on it. We haven't really even done anything as far as excuse me, as far as budgeting that goes.
No, we're just keeping it running on the placeholder list.
Correct.
So I think you've covered everything that I picked up, keeping you organized on your worksheet. The only thing that helps me is if there's a firm no.
Well, I didn't hear any of that.
I didn't either, so that's all.
Yeah, I think I have the most updated worksheet. I just wrote 9-2 on the top.
This is 9-2. I'm just handwriting on it. So when I get enough reports in, I'll massage it, put a new updated on it, so you know where we're at.
Can I, under personnel staffing wages, there's, I mean, it's nice to have, I think it's great to have all of that in one spot, because eventually they have to be considered individually, but you also have to know their collective costs. But right now, they're all TBDs, or most of them are TBDs. And it would be helpful to know, as we're considering these personnel requests. As you know, it's going to be a very, very tight budget as far as hiring people for next year. It'd be nice to know the actual cost for each one of those.
Sure.
So we can have a view of what we're approving beyond just staffing and how it affects the budget.
And now recently, we've ratified 6 contracts.
Right,
6 recently, so that helps me know numbers.
right.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Any other questions for Leanna?
I'm free to go.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Could we ask the question to see if anybody but me would like a session with you on their,
Certainly. Does anybody want a little tutorial with their laptops?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a
Okay.
good thing to schedule.
I'm available after the meeting if you are.
Well, if even you need it, then I'm sure I do.
Just a tutorial on how to operate the laptop and stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest one here, so I'm probably not as.
Not sure.
Well, if you're available after the meeting, I can be too. Or any day, just let me know. Sure.
All right, thank you. Well, next up, we got Andrew, but I don't see him here.
I'm gonna go rattle his cage
We'll do that.
on my way back.
Yep.
I don't know, right?
Andrew's budget's under public records tab, if you want to find it.
Yeah, let's do that.
So where is it?
Here it comes.
Yeah, because I couldn't find it on the supplemental information. You guys have anything under there?
Well, he has it under narratives. He's got a narrative in there, and that's on page
Under supplemental information.
81 through 86 under narratives. But his budget is under the tab public records, and I believe it's page 48. Here.
Capital outlay.
The tab, do you have the tab public records?
Yeah, we do.
Page 48 of 83.
Public records. Well, it's go for it, Andrew.
All right,
Thanks for coming.
good. Are we still in the morning? Yes, we are. Good morning. I do want to give a brief overview of the department, but as far as budgetary items, I don't really have a lot of comments to make. Our single largest sort of discretionary expenditure, so not involving paying staff, insurance, that sort of thing, was, at least in 2025, was for the aerial imagery. So in 2024, the county entered into a contract with the state of Michigan to purchase aerial imagery. That cost that we committed to was about $25,000, and we paid about a quarter of that, $6,254 in June of 2025. And that came out of, I believe, the mapping fund. So that was to acquire 6-inch aerial imagery. And the state of Michigan flies for aerial imagery roughly every 5 years. I think they're getting more on a 5-year schedule. So 2030 will be the next time they fly. We flew in 2006, 2012, 2017, 2021, and then this past spring. And we're looking to get that aerial imagery into us in about a week or two, according to the state. And then we have to evaluate it, make sure it's acceptable based on the canopy cover and that sort of thing for our needs before we push it out to the public. So I guess before I dive into like a sort of an overview, is there any specific budgetary questions that you had about anything in Kathy's documentation or my, I guess, narrative?
Part of your request is services of the zoning, a surveyor.
So we always, this has kind of been a carryover from my predecessor. We've kind of always budgeted for or allocated for services for a surveyor, mostly because through the Remon program, the county has collected actual GPS points for section corners throughout the county, but not in every location. There are certain locations where the surveyors like to pick the low-hanging fruit, and so there are certain areas where they haven't gone. And so in the past, we've hired a surveyor to go out and like collect points for us in areas where we had limited points, because that helps us with our GIS to establish sort of control, to make sure that when we are actually going out and drawing those GIS polygons in our map, that they are accurate. And knowing where those section corners are is very helpful, because those are that's what's on the deed. So the deed doesn't say like, use this GPS point to find the corner. It says, the corner is at, section 25, go 800 feet northwest, et cetera. And so it's important to know where those spots are. And so in areas where we had low control, we've attempted to get surveyors to go out and to provide us with those points. I think we've only done that in the years that I've been here. I think we've only done that once, and that was under Lori Spencer. But it's just something that like is foreseeable that we could do that. And that just makes sure that we don't have situations where you have like lot lines running through houses in like the villages, which is what we had when I started as the GIS person way back in 2012. We just didn't have the level of control that we wanted to have. And when we had those GPS points, we were able to make sure that we got everything in those villages drawn, so that we didn't get phone calls every day of people saying like, hey, there's a line running through my house. So that sort of thing.
I didn't see a dollar amount for that. Probably is someplace for the survey,
It's under, I think it's under contractual services, it's 4,000.
4,000. That's been the same, I'm not, it's been the same for a while.
Correct. Yeah, like I've been the director since 22 and I've never used that line. But again, it's one of those things that we put in there as a possibility. That
Now, as I look at the history, it's never come close to 4,000. It's sort of an as needed basis.
Correct, yeah.
Questions? If not. Okay.
Yeah, in Andrew's budget, we did discuss the fact that years ago, the equalization department in-house did tax bill printing for some of the townships that were unable to do that
Correct.
function on their own just because of their size and their capabilities. However, now it has evolved, the townships are on their own, correct?
Correct.
So if you would look mid-range on page 48 where it says property tax postage, it's pointed off as the last 6 digits, 728001 on your account number system there. Property tax postage on page 48 of 83. It's a budget item of $8,000. We're going to zero that out. So we're going to reduce his budget by 8,000. And on page 849, the next page, there is also property tax. And it's got a $4,000 line item. We're going to zero that out. And then we also have converse revenue, we're going to zero out. That was collected from the townships because Andrew's office would provide this service, bill for the printing, the postage, bill it to the townships, and they would reimburse the county, and there's a revenue that we're gonna zero out that is representative of that expense. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I just want to let you know that that is going to happen to his budget.
So over the last several years, we've been working quite diligently. I should really say my assessing technician, Linda Priest, has been working very diligently with township treasurers to make sure that they understand how to do their own tax bills so that they can manage that. They can print them. They don't have to come to us. They can do it themselves. My view is that that's what those treasurers are elected to do. That's their role. And so far, we've always been willing to offer help and assistance. But that's sort of a perishable, that's like a perishable skill. So hopefully they have now sort of absorbed that ability and can kind of carry forward on their own.
And Andrew also in his capital outlay was looking for a scanner for $1,000. I've looked at his history of his office supplies. He underspends his office supplies. Would you feel comfortable buying that scanner for
Sure.
your office supplies?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
If you're all okay with that, rather than establishing a capital outlay line item, I think he has managed that well, if you think that might be doable.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Good.
So feel free to jump in as I kind of move through this overview, but so equalization department, there's 4 staff, there's director, there's a field appraiser, Jim Stocknick. He is a Michigan certified assessing tech. We have a GIS analyst, Rob Herman, our magic man. He is also a Michigan certified assessing tech. And then we have Linda Priest, our assessing technician. She is an MCAO, so a Michigan certified assessing officer. So the primary purpose of equalization is to ensure that each class of real and personal property within the 12 local governing units of Leelanau County are assessed uniformly at the statutorily required assessment ratio of 50% of true cash value. And you're going to hear me say that every single time that I come in front of you, because that is our key purpose. So in a practical sense, what the equalization process is trying to achieve are property assessments which are fair and equitable across township lines and between classes of property. Now, equalization is a function that's mandated by the state of Michigan, and it's delegated to the Board of Commissioners. So each spring, the Board of Commissioners meets in an equalization session, and it is the Board of Commissioners that equalizes. So the Equalization Department assists you all to do that process. MCL 211.34 states, quote, "The Board of Commissioners of a county shall establish and maintain a department to survey assessments and assist the Board of Commissioners in the matter of equalization of assessments." So that is our primary purpose. So in addition to that, we calculate the millage rollback fraction or the millage reduction fraction for all taxing jurisdictions within the county in order to comply with the Headley Amendment. So this just ensures that the taxes that are levied do not exceed the amount that is allowed by law. We also prepare the annual apportionment report that goes to the Board of Commissioners and then to the state of Michigan. That will be in October, so that's coming up. We also provide assessment info and guidance on taxation issues to townships, school districts, assessors, other county offices, and then other government agencies if they have questions. And then the department maintains the county's GIS, Geographic Information System, and then the data that's associated with that. So our parcel data, our aerial imagery, road center lines, E911, the stuff that they use over in emergency management. Rob is sort of integral to that whole process and helping them maintain that data. So all the fireboxes and things like that, he helps build with the assistance of the fire departments and emergency management. And then we push the data, for example, the parcels and the aerial imagery out onto the web, and then tabular data as well. So property tax information also goes out through the parcel search, and then we have the ArcGIS online website. So those are the two components of our website that I think, last time I checked, I'd have to check with Leanna again, that's where the majority of the traffic to our website goes. It goes to the parcel search because people want to know like what's going on with my parcel. And then the department is also part of the county's damage assessment team. So our procedures, the way that the department accomplishes equalization is through the use of appraisal and sales studies. So each year we identify a subset of parcels in the agricultural, commercial, and industrial classes to review in the field. And then we also evaluate arm's length transactions of residential properties by comparing sale prices to assessments at the time of sale. So this just means identifying the sales, gathering documentation related to them. So the warranty deeds, the quit claims, the land contracts that tell us information about the sale, and then vetting those sales to ensure that they should be included as good sales in our study. And then each February I present our equalization study, which basically just recaps our entire study process and the findings. And that's ahead of that March board review. And then the formal equalization session happens in April. So we're currently like still in the midst of our study process for the 2026 year. But for 2025, we looked at 133 ag parcels, 136 commercial, 2 timber cutover, 69 industrial, and then we looked at 1,192 residential parcels. So that amounted to about 1,500 parcels, which was about 6.5% of the county's real parcels. So not personal property, but real parcels that exist in the real world.
Is that all done outside, out of the office?
So of that, the residential parcels, we can study just looking at sales. So we use the sale as a proxy. The sale is it's not a proxy, it's a direct read of the market. For the other studies, for our appraisal studies, there's not usually enough agricultural studies or commercial or industrial studies, sales, to be able to just use the sales. So we go out and we conduct an appraisal and we compare our appraisal with what the assessor has it assessed at to come up with an assessment ratio. And that's what our studies are based on. So when we have enough sales, we always use a sales study. When we don't, we use appraisals. So for the appraisal studies, we studied 340 properties that we actually went out and visited. And then there were an additional 64 properties that we visited for our land value study. So 404 site visits. Again, this is back in 2024 because we're still doing that work now for this year. And now with 404 site visits between April and mid-October of 24. And so that totaled about 32 days in the field for Jim. And typically going out in the
does the appraisals?
His name's Jim Stocknick. He's our property appraiser.
So he's the only one that goes out, or do they do?
So he typically goes out with the assessor as well. And then he and the assessors, because essentially what we're doing is we're coming up with that appraisal number and then comparing against what the assessors, what they've set, what their assessment was for the prior year. And so they'll do a bunch of like back and forth of like, well, I'm saying this building was X, you're saying it's Y. And they kind of, there's definitely a back and forth process that we have with the assessors. And typically that process, like field days usually require kind of a day of preparation ahead of time where you're identifying all your parcels, you're getting your maps, all that sort of thing. Then you have a day in the field, depending on how complicated what you're visiting or how many parcels you're visiting. And then you have a day back in the office where you're putting all of the data that you've collected into our BSNA database. So that's really a broad overview of our process. And then what do we report and when? So we present the summer L4029 to you in May. So that's to cover the levy for operations. We just did the winter 4029 in earlier in September. So for roads, seniors, early childhood, apportionment is in October. And then the equalization study or the L4018 recap is in February. And then the actual equalization report is in April for statutory equalization. So that's basically what we're up to. Chairman Yoder was kind enough to sit through a more detailed briefing on the equalization process at the start of the term. And I really appreciate that you were willing to, come in and sit with me and listen to my spiel. And that's something that I'm always happy to do with the Board of Commissioners or with members of the public. So yeah, I mean, feel free. We're always around, and we're happy to. At least I'm very happy to discuss equalization and try to educate folks. So yeah, thank you for letting me come and speak today. And I can answer any questions that I may have raised.
What's your role working with the treasurer and the finance director and the administrator on projecting revenue?
So in the past, as far, I had never had a role other than to provide the L4029 with the whatever the total taxable value was. And I think that was also true of my predecessor. Now I have this year, because I know that there was interest in being able to project into the future. I think that's been like kind of a long-term goal of the board to be able to do these kind of projections. The administrator asked me to provide some information, so I was able to provide him with some historic information and sit in some budget meetings or some, I don't know if you call them, I guess they weren't budget meetings because they weren't in front of you all, but with finance and the administrator and the treasurer to sort of sort through. And so that's what I've done. And that is something that I'm happy to participate in. I am happy to provide sort of historical data so that we can just make informed decisions about going into the future.
But maybe just some thoughts, because that's become an important part of our discussion. What do I want to say? The stability of property taxes as a revenue source, as in even, and I know there's discussion about, well, what happens if, because we all lived through 2008 and 2009. If such a scenario would occur, how long that would take to play out as far as revenue. Because I say that, I know most of your projections or work is on a 2-year basis.
Correct.
So even when things do go to hell in a handbag, it isn't that a month later, our revenues sink. So just an idea about the stability and time we might have to react in a, I don't want to say worst case, but let's just say we had a worst case in 2008. Should that happen again, what kind of lead do we have to react?
I don't remember the exact numbers. I always present a chart I think it's in the equalization report that shows the increases in taxable value over time. And I think after 2008, I think the county recovered, I think the assessed value recovered after only, it was not, it wasn't an extremely long amount of time before we kind of had a dip as a result of 2008, and then we were back on, an increase. And, as you know, Leelanau County is a place that people want to live, so we're somewhat insulated, from those trends. Obviously, something like 2008 would be bad even for a county like Leelanau. But
Taxable values, though, even though the SEVs can go fast, taxable values take a little longer, don't they?
correct, yeah, I mean, taxable values are just restrained, right? They're restrained in their growth. But I mean, Leelanau County, I think I looked at something the other day that had it was the median house price in each county in Michigan for June of 2025, and Leelanau County was at something like $650,000 median, and that was about $200,000 above any other county, which was shocking to me. But I guess not surprising, right? But to see that it was so significantly higher than everywhere else, so Leelanau County is, as the administrator has pointed out, we're a unique place. So.
But I think the question that you're asking also is, if we were to get hit by a recession like 2008, we would have actually a considerable period of time, because we would really be looking at 2008, the taxes would already be assessed and actually be in the process of collecting. So the real question is, what would be the rate of foreclosures perhaps, where you would actually have a problem where the tax might not be collected. That's what happened in Calhoun County. In fact, I would say Calhoun County probably took 10 years to recover from 2008, actually, where they started to see an uptick in taxable values after 2008. It's about a 10-year. What Andrew's saying, it was much quicker in here, and largely because, as he said, with the $200,000 differential between median sales, you're going to always have a desirable residential purchases. So we're not likely to be as sensitive to anything like what happened in 2008. But it will be a considerable lag, probably at least a year's worth of collections that you'll be able to react to.
It's been a while, but I can remember doing those stories, and as I recall, Leelanau was the only county in the state of Michigan that did not see an actual drop in taxable. I mean, we went to zero as far as increase.
Right.
But everybody else just fell off the cliff, and we just went to zero. So we are very lucky and very insulated.
I think it took only about 5 years here to get back to where we were seeing an increase.
Well, I disagree with that. I think that, I don't even think we saw a decrease.
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying an increase in the taxable values
No, I don't think so.
overall. Well, okay.
I have both charts in one of my reports, so I can provide those if you're interested.
It's just,
I think for the taxable value, there was not, the fall off was not that substantial. I think for the assessed, it took a few years for the assessed to come back up to 2008 levels.
Yes.
But the taxable value, I don't think fell off that significantly. But again, I'd have to look at the data.
So what you saw in Calhoun County was what I would call economic depressed sales. So that really reduced SEV as a result.
I think you're right. I think I'm talking about assessed values.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about actual taxes.
Taxable values maintained stability, but down there in most other counties of the state, it did not, because you had, economically induced fire sales of properties, and not so much up here.
Well, isn't that why in the MCL, they actually ask us, we need to do an assessment of what the new taxes would bring in, but we don't really have to use it in our budget.
Oh,
You know, I think
that's
it says-
more of a,
I think it says that we need to do an assessment of what, and which you have helped us to do, but I don't believe it says it has to be used in the budget, because we don't know what's gonna happen in the future.
I would say it's used in the budget to determine what you're able to spend or reduce
Yeah. I
taxes.
mean, we can use it, but we don't have to. The MCL says we have to do an assessment of what we think it'd be, but it never says in there that we have to use that in the budget process. At least that's my understanding.
I think we're talking about the same thing, but my emphasis is just a little different. You have to do an estimate. It doesn't mean you have to spend it. It means you have to consider it as you adopt your budget. Because again, revenues dictate two things: what you can spend and whether or not you can provide tax relief.
Okay, have any other questions for Andrew? All right, doesn't look like it.
all right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You know where to find me if you have more questions.
All right. Next up, we have item number 5, which was the amended part of our agenda budget process. I think I know where Commissioner Wassell's going with this, but I'll let him kind of. Since you
I just wondered how everybody thought we were doing and if we're making enough progress. And I know that Wynn's going out of town, the last meeting. And just thought we ought to do an assessment of if, are we getting any closer to the end?
And I've had requested 2 or 3 times that we reschedule that last meeting for that date. In the
Sure,
past,
we're talking about
the 19th of October.
yes, that, if that's the date you're thinking we're going to actually approve, have a public hearing and approve the budget, it's actually current.
Right, but you've got a meeting scheduled, there was a scheduled meeting, budget session on the 19th. You know, in the past,
The
we,
19th of October.
No, it's the 21st.
or the 21st, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and right now,
I'm leaving on the
it's scheduled for availability, but we don't have anything scheduled for the meeting on the 21st.
Kathy mentioned that there was somebody scheduled at
So
on the
Not on-
21st.
Where's Sharon Leelanau? What meeting date is she coming? Do we know?
that might be the case, but that's possible.
So in the past, we've gone over 3 hours when we needed to. We could adjust our schedules so we're done.
Well, let me tell you what we do have coming up. The last 4 budget presentations from departments will take place a week from today on the 30th. And then we do what I would consider budget essential is the woman that you indicated on the 21st. That is from the Family Coordinating Council. That was more of an update rather than budget conscious in my mind. We had 3 dates, the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st in October to use for budget workshops. The only one that I know for sure that we have scheduled is on the 14th. That was intended to review insurance and health insurance review and budget recommendations regarding that. But that is also dependent on whether or not we receive the renewal paperwork from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We set that date in the anticipation that we would have it by then. There's no guarantee that we will. To me, that's the last 2 pieces that I maybe.
Yeah, Lauren, could you come with it? Thank you.
Yeah, can't we have Sharon just come in on an earlier date?
So the 14th, I don't have any outside entities scheduled to present. The 21st, I currently have Soil Conservation and the Leelanau County Family Coordinating Council confirmed to present to you.
So can't we bump those up into one of the earlier meetings?
The 21st.
Do you have anything on the seventh?
I had penciled in early childhood, but it is crossed out currently. It's still, I do not have any formal agenda items scheduled for October 7th.
So when is the health department coming in?
I believe on the 14th. I would have to go back through my email and look for the confirmation from Dan Thrall.
Yeah, anyway, I sure appreciate it if things that were scheduled now for the 21st are scheduled earlier.
I can
I've
certainly
been asking
try.
for that for a long time.
Which date would you like me to try and reschedule that for?
Just before the 19th.
Whichever is more open.
We have the 7th and the 14th. The 30th is packed.
Just whenever they can come on those earlier dates.
I'll try. They were all offered all of the dates, so I'll certainly do what I can to reschedule that.
Unusual act of honesty, I have to say that I'm not going to be there on the 21st either, so.
Unusual. That's very interesting.
I
Stay.
thought I'd say it before you did.
Good, let's keep the 21st, it'll be easier.
Well, I'm wondering what days,
Sure.
what days we're gonna make decisions. I mean, we're hearing all these things, but I think we have to make decisions about, you know, all the stuff that we're talking about, whether we're gonna, you know, say yes to $1,000 screening thing or not, you know? But I don't see that on the schedule to make those decisions.
I was considering the seventh, October 7th for that.
So any presentations on the 14th or 21st, decisions would already been made?
Unless we do it after the 21st, we could still do that.
I won't be here.
After the 21st.
As if date after.
So whatever.
October 21st.
After October 21st, not.
I will not.
So you're gonna disappear after October 21st?
On the 19th, I get on a jet plane, because we've always been done with.
But what about like the
budget.
28th? Because that's another date. No,
November 5th, just in time for the meeting.
oh, no.
I give myself a day's grace. That's, we've always been done. So I just planned normal.
Yeah, I
probably
agree
shouldn't have made
that
that assumption.
we're a long ways from making decisions and we got a lot more information, but I'm wondering, some major things have to come in, I think, before we do that. Like on the CIP, you were talking about going through and telling us or making your priorities on what has to go in there. I haven't seen that. It's gotta be early because that's big money and that tells us what's available after that. I'm not sure what to think about our drainage districts. I mean, that could be hundreds of thousands, but I'm not sure how to handle that. Our self-funded healthcare is a huge line item. And that information isn't gonna come in till after. Those are immediate needs. And then I look at our long-term. Now we put in $250,000 for the retirement. We've lost ground on our retirement a little bit. And so the one long-term is something I don't want to saddle future taxpayers and commissioners with, is increased pension liability. So I think we should look at, should that be 250? Does that do it this year? Should it be 500 or should we do 250 this year and say, look, next year we're gonna have to dig into this. So those are the other thing that is not in here is increased pay for non-union workers. We've not dealt with that and now it's retroactive. So its effect on the 2025 budget will be,
Non-union is not retroactive.
okay. So even though the,
Union is, and that we're,
is it,
that pretty solid.
has it never been retroactive? I mean, I always thought that
No,
when,
One of the last things in 24 for 25 was to include the raise for the non-union. It was amended early in 25 because we did it at the very last minute in 24. So that amendment has already taken place. They started at the correct wage July or January 1st, the non-union did in 25. Now,
oh, okay,
so everybody's good.
okay.
26, non-union increase is not in your proposed. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's an amount of money that we should figure out before we approve the budget. So we have to deal with if we're going to increase non-union at the same percentage as everyone else. Or if we're not going to do that.
I think we're close to being ready to have a meeting to make decisions about CIP. I think we have most of the information we need, and that doesn't depend on us waiting for the rest of these departmental things. I think we could do that anytime. At least narrow the list a lot.
And you mentioned the 7th, you had that down for that.
that's what I had considered as the likely date when we would do that.
Next week we have 4 presentations again, and the week after that we go through our capital outlay. Everybody comfortable with that?
I don't have a clue as far as where we're at, to be honest. Are we underwater? Are we above water? I mean, I've not heard that in distinct terms, that we're tight as can be, and I just haven't heard that.
That's what I would hope to be able to give to you on our close up or sooner. But to actually make decisions on that day.
So maybe we hear, I mean, I'd kind of like to digest it rather than hear that and then make decisions. I'd like to digest it a week maybe and have time for it to kind of sink in before we come back and actually make votes. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I always do better if I got a little time on those types of monumental choices to think it through.
Commissioner Money, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just concerned about the things that Liana talked about. Are those gonna be capital outlays, or are those just IT budget items? I mean,
Those are budget items. Because the 365 is also a renewal licensing, so it'll be
Okay.
built into her budget and cost allocated to the departments.
because those were some significant amounts we added also.
Those would be operating expenses.
I just have a quick comment.
Yeah, Jeff?
I just wanted to comment that, I understand on the 7th, you want to make some decisions. I think in Kathy's world of budgeting, as was previously in my world, the two main concerns you have is your cost allocation plans. I understand the health insurance side of it. That's definitely something we've always done, amended in the next year because the renewal is late in the year. But for her to process, excuse me, she has to have your buildings and grounds and that long laundry list of all those things if you're going to add those. And then also the IT and that list of what gets added. Then from there, she could start to implement the wages, implement your changes on your cost allocation plans, and come back to you with before you agree on this person or that department. Because if you do increase those budgets, they are going to increase every other budget as well, astronomically, you know what I mean? So whatever you add right now, that's not budgeted in the 636 or the 631 is going to tack on to all departments. And again, tack on. And then she also has the numbers where, like you're stating, she's going to put in your contracts that have all been negotiated now other than maybe the one that's ratified, those wages, those fringe and benefits, as well as you would decide if you're going to stay the course with non-union, and she needs that number as well. If you are going to do a freeze of wages of non-union or whatever you're going to do with your contract, she needs that before she can reproduce this for you.
Is that because the IT actually gets spread out? for
Yes, as
everybody?
well as buildings and grounds, yes. From my personal experience sitting here, I would think that you would push out your budget hearing until December. That's way too much of a turnaround time for that department of 3 to be able to produce that much work. And technically, the decisions that have to be formulated within the next couple of weeks is what she's going to budget out to the rest of it. That's, again, just my opinion.
Thank you. Makes a lot of sense that until she has solid numbers for every department,
Correct.
that it's gonna be tough for us to make the choices.
Well, I'm ready to make decisions about building and grounds and technology. If that speeds the process up, we've heard those presentations. My priorities aren't going to change based upon the upcoming presentations relative to building and grounds and technology. So I would suggest that we have a session really soon, like maybe 1 o'clock today, and make decisions about IT and buildings and grounds.
I don't think that's 18 hours. notice.
Yeah.
That's right. You can adjourn for an hour or whatever, and then return. And I'm trying to remember how that law goes, but
We
we
didn't,
can
we
adjourn
didn't
for a
amend
bit.
our agenda for that, so we didn't do our agenda for that.
Well, he's been,
No, this meeting could continue on.
this meeting can continue after you adjourn for an hour. I think you can adjourn up to 24. Pushing.
Would that, would it have to include, whether the wages are increased or not, or it
Well,
wouldn't have to do health insurance either?
at this time, you've got ratified contracts or, so I can be putting those figures together for the FOPLC, and I believe I'm safe to do dispatch.
Has that contract
I'll
been
let-
ratified?
And we have a TA on that, which will be presented to you for approval on your October meeting. For final ratification.
So has the union approved it?
Whatever the October 14th, I think, is our
Sure.
wherever our full board meeting in October would be indicated to the union that they have to have their ratification done by that, before that date. So we want a ratified contract, or we want their ratification before you consider final ratification by the board. But we do have a temporary agreement. Or tentative.
Okay.
Yes, I think we can, staff can get to revise a revised total budget that shows those wages included. And it'll give you a better idea of what you might have positions used for additions and capital improvement items.
Would I be able to consider the non-union?
I think you have to, yes.
Okay.
She's asking, are we ready to make a decision on anything today? Do we want to increase those wages and make them the increase equal with what we've already approved for union employees?
I think we should wait till we have the last contract ratified before we do anything else.
So what we do is give you projections, with certain assumptions. Assuming you approve a light increase for the non-union, for example, assuming that you do ratify the dispatch contract, and you approve a light increase for the non-union, we can give you those numbers, and that will help you make decisions.
you would like us to move ahead on the non-union, and that what you,
You don't have to make a decision. You actually are not going to make a decision on that until you actually ratify the budget.
right?
You know, so what I want to do is give you the numbers that take those things into consideration. And we can put them in and take them out as the process continues. But right now, you need to know, if you assume those things happen, what the budget is.
So we can direct Kathy to, if this board so agrees, to include the 3% raises that were offered union employees. And then she can do her work rather than wait for us. to
Yes,
do
exactly.
ours.
So we can, yeah, and again, you may not like that. You may want it to make it 2 or 0. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we gotta go.
You have to be reacting to something. We owe that to you at your next meeting, whenever that is. October 7th would be, I think, the soonest we can provide that. That's why I'm saying that I think the October 7th meeting would be an appropriate time for you to get that and be prepared to make some decisions based on that new data.
If we ever not given the non-union staff the increase that union staff.
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's always
I don't
followed.
even want that on the table. I think that would be a very, that would be an unhealthy discussion to have.
Let's get her out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way. Yeah, build in your budget, right?
I'm not agreeing with that, everybody else is.
I just would rather we wait till, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but I'd rather wait till after all the contracts are.
And as I said, you
Negotiations,
don't
yeah.
have to make it, in fact, you will not make a decision until all that has happened. But it's kind of foolish in my mind not to have that data at least presented to you as to what the consequences would be if you make that decision. That's, I think, what staff owes you.
I think it'd be wise to incorporate it in the budget, but like our
That's
administrator
exactly what
said, it doesn't get approved until we approve it, but at least incorporate it in there so we know what we're looking at.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I need clarification for the minutes, because I'm confused on the direction. So, according to Administrator Dyer, he would like the projection, and then Chairman Yoder would say built in, because that's what I said. You typically build that in, and then if you don't want it, you would retract it. So is hers just a projection on a spreadsheet or within the actual budget? That's what I'm looking for clarification for minutes.
I would like it within the actual budget, so,
Okay.
and then we can move on from there.
I just want to make sure that's what
We're
I'm.
not approving anything, we're just trying to get a budget.
Yeah, so built in. Okay, thank you.
That's what I
Appreciate
would
that.
like.
Yep, I appreciate that. Is that the consensus? Built in,
Yes. Yes.
built in 3%.
Yes.
Okay,
And then
thank you.
earlier, Leanna was proposing an increase in IT. You want just a spreadsheet on that? You don't
From
want
personnel.
that one person. You asked for figures on that?
Myself, I'm not ready to make that decision on increasing personnel yet. I'd like to see a number first.
Yes, we can
Okay.
provide that to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But as far as maintenance or buildings and grounds, I mean, the chiller isn't that in this year's budget?
Yes.
So we don't need to add that. Then he's
Well,
got,
it will be rolled over.
right, okay. So, but we know that already, that's already been approved and will be rolled over, but there's also the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and the study. And I think those could be included. I don't know about anything else as far as buildings and grounds.
The staff would put that high on their list for CIP projects for you to consider. That would be
Okay, so we do that with the CIP. I was thinking we could add it into the budget, so you can start that kind of change, because it has to be gone through all the other, it gets divided among all the other.
And that's again, my
Cost
preference. My preference is that projects like that are in your budget resolution, that those projects are actually approved in that resolution. And then staff has the opportunity to apply your policies regarding purchasing, start those processes. Rather than having, in fact, I think your budget appropriation resolution should contain a provision that says, we're authorized to take any action necessary, present to you the finalization of that project, instead of having to come to you to get an approval to go out for an RFP that's required by your policy. We should be able to do an RFP, get it out, and then present it to you as a final project. It delays the process to have multiple approvals when you've already determined in the budget that you're going to spend that, you want that project to be completed.
That makes sense if it's in the budget and we made a
Right.
decision, we want to do it, so.
I was just going to talk about the wastewater treatment. That would not be a part of buildings and grounds. It would be a project in the 470, which is a different fund that doesn't get cost allocated. We would just have to figure out funding for it, and that would be a discussion if it was going to be DTR or general fund.
Correct.
So that is not one of those cost allocated expenditures.
Within our budget now, Kathy, there were requests for changes, and increases in personnel with the maintenance department. That's not within our budget now, that would be the request.
Yes, correct.
So without specific action, we would retain the current staffing level, which I might add was increased from 2024 to 2025. And I just don't think, for myself, I would not be in favor of making that change at this stage. I'd like to see how this works with a facilities director and the current staff for another year, and then reconsider it in a year. If that helps as far as establishing where we're going on buildings and grounds. And no offense to Patrick, he put together a heck of a presentation, but I just feel, with all the balls up in the air and the variables, I don't feel comfortable doing that right now. That's myself, what's up.
Right, and I guess I'd like to look at the description, his job description, and maybe make a couple of tweaks to it, so that he's not just a desk person. I mean, if he has all the qualities he has, there are some things he could do to help, I'm sure, rather than hire another person.
So to assist me, Administrator Dyer, we're going to put 3% in on the ratified contracts and the non-union. We're not going to do any increasing in bodies. That's different discussion.
Well, I mentioned for buildings and grounds. I don't think we've dealt with IT yet, so let's talk about that.
But you wanted a separate spreadsheet on that, just to see what it looked like.
Yes.
That's
Cost analysis.
Yep, that's
We did the
different.
Same thing, actual cost analysis for any department that's requested a change of either classification or adding.
Sure.
We'll have that analyzed as to, this is the budget impact of such a change. So at least you're gonna have a baseline of what we're currently contractually committed to do for our employees, with the addition of the same raise for non-union people. You'll have a new baseline budget that will show you those things and give you an idea then what you will have available for either capital improvements or staff changes, or both.
Well, just if this helps along, on the list here, personnel, staffing and wage benefit changes, the only position on that list I want to support would be the IT position. All the other positions on that, I think, have to be deferred. That's just me.
Well, the IT is the one that counts, because there's two that counts for as far as Kathy's work, buildings and grounds. And apparently we've got a leanings on that. We finish up the IT, then we can gather more information for we make further decisions.
There's also for the sheriff. Yeah, extra person.
Well, are you saying you want to make a decision on that? Well, it's not an extra person for the sheriff.
It's a reclassification.
It's a
And
reclassification.
again, we can provide you the data, the exact cost of that. And it's, so you know its budget implications, so you can make an informed decision.
The IT would be cost allocated.
Right.
The sheriff or any general fund wage doesn't, I
Right?
mean, that's an add-on. That's not cost allocated.
Building and grounds would cost out.
Yes, buildings and grounds would be.
I agree on the IT position. That is more and more complicated and more important.
I would move that we honor the request of the IT director and make that second position a full-time position.
I would support that, but this isn't a meeting.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's a recommendation. It's a motion to recommend.
Yeah, I would support
I
that.
thought I heard you say I recommend.
That's moved and supported, discussion.
I want to think about it. I'm not ready to say yes on that.
Any other discussion? All right. Not all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carried 5-1.
I leaned your way, but I just,
It's fine.
I think that's, some things, even some of those pieces that you're not so sure of, at some point, you've got to put them into the wall if you're gonna build any higher.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of them.
Well, I totally see where you're coming from, but the presentation I heard this morning, I felt like it definitely swayed my, just to see the cost they have and the time they're putting in and the risk that we're putting in the building here. I think it's extremely important that we stay safe, so.
So to use the distinction from chief deputy clerk, we will build that into the budget rather than give you a projection regarding that, the next pro forma budget you'll see will include that as a added staff. And we'll have that on your October full board agenda as a discussion item, since it was not unanimous vote here. Everybody understand that?
Yeah, the other thing that I guess it concerns me about a little bit is that she really just got a half-time person. And I don't even know that she's got that person fully integrated, because I think she's still training it.
She does.
So, I mean, we really haven't given halftime enough time to say all of a sudden we need a full-time. Because she basically asked for halftime before, and we said yes to that. So I guess that's my hesitation, is that I think she's still training that person, which takes time. Once you get through training, it'll be a different situation. But that's just.
Anything else you need?
Just to remind the board that I'll be at MGFOA conference on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. So, and then I have a appointment out of the office on Friday. So I have these 3 days, this week and one day next, to prepare for October 7th.
I'll say you won't be with us next Tuesday.
I will not. We did discuss it. Jim and I talked about whether you want to take it.
I was going to say, I indicated to Kathy, it wouldn't be necessary for her to stream into that meeting unless it was a particularly boring session for that time. I would much rather that she absorb everything she can in the GFOA conference. I'll take her role in reviewing those items and making sure that we include them, anything that comes up in your list of things to consider.
Yeah, I did look at your speakers that are coming, your presenters, and I don't think they really have anything on this worksheet, but it's always good to hear their presentation. I'll probably watch we are live, right? Are we live? Okay. So I can catch up on that as well. Just asking for just a little bit of grace if I can't hit that October 7th with all of these projections. We're working very diligently on retro pay for the unions that have been negotiated. And we've already discussed my staff, so. Okay,
Isn't the 30th the first day of the MAC conference?
Yes.
Yeah, we have that next week.
Yeah. I'm not sure what time, I don't have the schedule there. But I'm
I
not-
haven't got any email as far as what's scheduled, so that was gonna be a question I had too, but I don't know if that approach on our budget meeting.
Anything on it?
I can't confirm. I'm pretty sure it starts late in the afternoon,
Okay.
the conference, but I can confirm.
What day was that?
Thursday, the day we have our meeting, that's what I was concerned about, that conference starts, but I do think she's right, I think the first day is afternoon.
I do believe that's correct.
I would imagine, yeah, since it's the first day.
Yeah.
So we may be safe on that.
And how does it work the? Oh, there.
Have any other questions, comments?
I'm just thinking if you're wanting to pursue your screens, do you want to make sure that's on an agenda for coming up with IT to,
I do have that on my,
Okay.
list. I don't know that we'll be able to have a recommendation by October.
and then the Microsoft 365, is that on your list too, Jim?
I had not put that on the list. I was considering that as a budget 2026 item. We can add that.
Yeah, I think Leanna thought the sooner the better would be better if that was doable.
We may do that as a partial adoption. We'll have to look at her budget to see if there's space available.
Yeah. And
She did mention that she would like to start it this year. Would that then come out of contingency?
in her
Or would
budget,
that-
I just looked at that.
I think she's right, it's gonna take some time.
She's underspent. As of September 30th, she's about 60% spent in her budget. I mean, she has fund balance.
Yeah.
We might be able to work this out, but if we have to amend, we'll amend more than likely from fund balance. Her contingents, she doesn't have a contingency line item in her budget.
All right, so that's something you can have at our October meeting, maybe have a suggestion for
I've
recommendations.
got it on the list.
Yeah,
Well, the other thing is, I think she missed a few days this year. And I think that's part of the reason why she is real busy, because she had her operation, I think it was it on her knee, I believe?
Yeah, she did have that, she did have some time off, that did delay even the hiring of a part-time person, but I can attest that when she was gone, the need was still there, and it wasn't being filled as well as it is when she is here, because it was being filled primarily by safety net. And they weren't as responsive as they've been in the past because of their acquisition, in my opinion.
I remember it because I needed some help myself, and I had to wait till she got back.
I can guarantee you that she's hopping all the time. I don't mean that physically.
I was gonna-
I should have watched my words there, but she is busy all the time.
Can I ask about that? And one of the reasons I like why we're supporting that position. And we've been talking a long time about a new financial system, and financial software. And I'm thinking you've got to have your IT department beefed up if you're going to go into that. Is that still, where is that at?
Actually, the system that we would most likely, if we were to make a change, consider a cloud system, which actually reduces the amount of time that you need for the IT department to because they're no longer maintaining servers on site. Those are maintained off-site. And in recent years as well, I mean, when I first encountered cloud computing, maybe 10, 12 years ago, there was a lot of skepticism about it because you didn't have access to your data. There was concern about whether it would be safe. The narrative is pretty much flip-flop, whereas cloud data is far more safe than locally maintained data, because we just can't have 24/7, 365, bunches of people monitoring that the way that the cloud enterprise companies can. So cloud data now is considered probably more safe, unless you're, the Department of Defense, even they did hack, where you have full-time security people. You just don't have the capability for that, but the cloud-based companies do. So it actually reduces, to some extent, the amount of IT staff that you need if you go to a cloud system.
We are looking still for a replacement of safety net, right?
Yes.
And, it may be that we could use a smaller contract with a service provider and own some of that responsibility in-house and have our own security too. Because we spend a lot of money on safety net, and not all of us were always satisfied with the level of service we got. So I like the idea of doing some of that internal.
With any luck, you'll see on your October agenda the approval of the RFP recommendation for a new provider or to replace safety net drive.
All right. Any follow-up questions or comments? Budget process.
I just, in the front cover of your budget book is your scheduled transfers in and out. I don't know if any of you have taken a moment to look at this, but this is kind of a informative piece so that you know what monies flow into the general fund from restricted funds and what funds we move from the general fund to restricted funds. And then we have transfers between funds at the bottom of the page. And when you see a transfer to and a transfer from, if you find those in the budget, they correlate, they'll match. So you'll see a transfer to 214 community corrections from the general fund to pay for community corrections. So you'll see the transfer out of the general fund and a transfer in Fund 214. They'll match. And you can go through that list. And if you have questions, we can certainly answer those questions. There's also cost allocation transfers into the general fund, the way they're presented now. This will change if we go to finalizing building safety and finalizing IT, because there's transfers here that will change. Okay.
Thank you. That we're on to public comment.
You know what, can I just say, I just finally found the MAC conference.
All right, that's part of commissioner comments. Go for it.
At 1 o'clock on the 30th, registrations starts at 11:30, but it goes to 6. At 1 o'clock, there's a crisis intervention team and mental health session. But after that, there's a network reception and strolling dinner at 5. And there's a workshop at 1 on Enbridge keeps safety at forefront. So whether we go to those or not, registrations that day, but you would also register the next one.
My experience of the MAC conference is the first day is mostly social and not very informative.
We could see if we can compress the September 30th meeting a little bit.
sounds like you don't need to.
Yeah.
I think we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
I think we'll be fine. Just speed it up and doesn't have too many questions.
Question. Actually, I did have a comment.
All right.
Sure. And it's only that if you don't get the screens, I wouldn't put that on a hurry because we have an early, 1 week earlier meeting schedule for October. I would rather see some time put into it and some thought rather than hurry up and get us something over here. Maybe explore some other counties, some other municipalities and see what they do. So, don't break don't want to break next speed. Let's do it.
Anything.
Well, I was talking about Leelanau.
Oh.
Yeah.
It would be nice if that other one would come to this one.
Yeah, that seems pretty easy.
That would be-
I think that's, it's certainly capable of that.
Any other commission comments? Thoughts?
Where we at with, bids for audit?
For which?
For audit?
The, Laura and I are working on it. I think we'll have it approved. So we'll have that issue probably possibly later this week.
And another note, I had time to think about it with construction code officer. If they're self-funded, why even be discussing the take-home vehicles? I mean, they're paying for it, it's going out of their fund. Sounds like maybe we should have two policies, one for just them and one for the rest of the county.
It obviously worked well for them. We served our people better, and that's what our bottom line is.
Any other commission comments? Not? We're adjourned.
Schedule.